Hello and welcome to Is This Your Card? Today we're looking at Power of the Wild. Power of the Wild is either a 2-cost spell that summons a 3/2 Panther, or it's a 2-cost spell that gives 1/1 to all of your other minions. As a pro tip, you probably don't want to be using this spell to summon a 3/2. Not because a 3/2 for 2 isn't good value, but because Power of the Wild is just incredibly better on pretty much every other possible circumstance you could think of, unless you have literally no other options. Power of the Wild on an empty board has become synonymous with Druid Desperation simply because it's just not as good as the buff is. A 1/1 to all other minions means that even the weakest of minions become incredibly powerful. For me, my personal favourite was to use Dark Whispers and then follow that up with a really nice Power of the Wild, simply because suddenly those 1/1 wisps become 2/2 wisps, which is not necessarily the most amazing thing in the world, but it gives you a lot of board presence and it makes it a little bit harder to get rid of. Another good combination is Poison Seed's Power of the Wild, simply because you can then buff up your 2/2 Trents to 3/3 Trents, meaning that your opponent can't exactly trade into them. It also means they're out of range of almost every single AoE except Flame Strike, and to be honest, if your opponent is going to Flame Strike your Trents, the chances are they're either really determined to not lose the battle, or they're maybe feeling just a little bit desperate. Power of the Wild really synergizes well with anything that summons a lot of minions. Something like Muster for Battle, if a druid could use it, would be pretty good to use Power of the Wild with. Onyxia is a very good prime example of a card that benefits nicely from Power of the Wilding. A druid that focuses on tokens and Savage Roar combinations like Force of Nature, like the saplings from Living Roots, all gain a big benefit from Power of the Wild's 1/1 buff. Just to clarify though, the 3/2 Panther isn't bad. It's just pretty standard. It's a Bloodfen Raptor. It's nothing amazing. It's nothing fantastic for a 2-cost spell. To be honest, that's probably why it's just a plain minion. Because if it wasn't a plain minion, then that 2-cost spell would probably be a hell of a lot more valuable. Druid choice cards like this one tend to have the effect of being able to do two things, but never necessarily quite as well as other cards can do them. The exception being Druid of the Claw, which gets a 4/6 taunt in one of its forms, which is just better than Fen Creeper, which is a 3/6 taunt, just flat out better. Power of the Wild's Panther, however, is a beast, so if you're looking for beast synergy, then yeah, I can see people plausibly using the 3/2 Panther. I just keep it for the buff. If you have a board of 3 or more minions, giving them +1/+1 is probably more valuable than summoning a 3/2. Hell, even 2 minions. If it was just the 1, I probably wouldn't use Power of the Wild unless I absolutely had to. Power of the Wild is a really good card. It's solid, it's reliable, and it works well even without a big board, though not necessarily shouldn't be used in that situation. I would say it's really good to use most of the time, especially good if you have a board, and it synergizes incredibly well with any spell that puts minions on the board as well.